Hi, everybody. It's Stephanie Parra, Government Relations Director with the Arizona Education Association. Coming to you live. It's the end of week 3 of the legislative session on Friday, February 1st, 2019. So I am here to kind of give you the scoop for what happened this week. While it is the third week of the legislative session, it certainly does feel like it's the third month. As I said last week, a lot of things are moving quickly, and a lot happened during this week. There were two really big items on the agenda for the legislature this week. Water and tax conformity were really two big issues. The legislature was able to pass a bipartisan water deal, and that was signed by Governor Ducey yesterday. On tax conformity, passed in the Senate yesterday as well, 16-14, and over in the House on a partisan split, 31-29. But we really asked you to take action on this issue, knowing that this could be funding that could be going into our schools with up to around $230 million in revenue that could have been drawn down by the state from the tax conformity proposal. The governor actually vetoed that bill earlier this afternoon. So again, we are thankful for all of you that took action, that called on Governor Ducey to veto this legislation. Those of you that contacted your legislators asking them to vote no on tax conformity, we are thankful for the folks that have stood with us on this issue. This really is the first big win for Red for Ed of the 2019 session. Because of your efforts, the governor did veto this piece of legislation, and we are now calling on Governor Ducey to put those resources when they do finalize the tax conformity, that those resources go into our classrooms. It is raining in our schools. He is proposing to put money into the rainy day fund, but it's absolutely raining in our classrooms, and we need money into our classrooms now. So we want to see action and movement on things like a full restoration of district additional assistance, which would bring in $371 million to K-12 schools next year. And so that is very much possible. And so we're calling on the governor and the legislature to act on that full restoration. Funding will, the conversations around money, it is early, and the budget will kind of, all of this will shake out in budget negotiations, but we'll continue to kind of push for money in classrooms now. There are a bunch of different proposals about what to do with some one-time resources. For us, that restoration of additional assistance is a top priority. Getting money into school facilities is a top priority. And so everything outside of that really should come second. Rainy day fund, K-12 rollover, those things should not be at the top priority of anyone's list. Funding directly going into classrooms should be the top priority for all of us, and that's what we will be pushing for. That's what we will be calling on our members to help us push for. So thank you to all of you that took action this week. We again had a big win this week on tax conformity. Next week, we have a bill, Senate Bill 1071. I brought this to your attention last week. It is Senator Boyer's version of teacher evaluations. The bill makes some changes to how teacher evaluations are done in the state, or what the proposed legislation is actually doing, is it removes the requirement that the State Board of Education establish the teacher evaluation framework. It moves that responsibility down to the local governing boards, which is a good thing. We do absolutely support local control, and do like the move to local governing boards, but there is a huge twist in this change that we are not on board with. So the current statute says that the State Board of Education will establish an evaluation framework that accounts for student academic achievement, and it doesn't give you a specific on what that data component should look like. The framework that is developed by the State Board of Education lays out multiple different different assessments that districts could use that are valid and reliable. And so it gives the districts flexibility to make those decisions at the local level. Unfortunately, Mr. Boyer's version strips that flexibility and mandates that local governing boards use the state assessment or the menu of assessment as the data component in a teacher's evaluation. It does reduce the data component from 33 to 50% to 20 to 40%, but again, removing that flexibility and mandating that we have that we use the statewide assessment or the menu of assessment is really not something that AEA will be on board with, and we are currently opposed to Senate Bill 1071 because of that lack of flexibility and really the negative impact that it could have on teachers that do not have valid and reliable data for their classrooms. For example, we always use this example as, if you are a 12th grade government teacher, the state assessment does not have a data component that is valid and reliable, and that could be used in your evaluation. And so a lot of those teachers are then evaluated on 10th grade English performance on the AZ merit. And again, as a matter of fairness and just as a matter of what makes sense, that does not make sense to us. It does not make sense to our members. And so we will be pushing for an amendment that will remove the mandate and the requirement that the data component be the state assessment or the menu of assessments. Again, flexibility. If we're going to move it to the local governing boards, the governing boards should then determine what the data component should be, and it should not be mandated by the state. So that is what we will push for in committee next week, and I will keep you all posted. If you are signed up for our legislative update, be sure to look out for that. We will ask you to reach out to the Senate Education Committee members, especially if you are one of these Group B teachers, as we call them, ones that will be negatively impacted by this change in statute. Reach out to those legislators, reach out to Mr. Boyer, the bill sponsor, and let them know how this will impact you in your pay for performance. It is a direct impact on your paychecks. So definitely reach out to them and let them know where you stand on Senate Bill 1071. Thank you again for taking the action this week. Again, we had a really big, busy week, and we were able to get a big win for the movement early on. And so we are looking forward to continuing having success and working towards getting more revenue and more resources into our classrooms. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope everybody has a great weekend, and I will see you back here next week.